Podstarz family, Podstarz website, people, Podstarz, podcasters, everybody in the world who is even remotely affiliated with Podstarz, welcome to the show. Today, my guest is a man who checks so many boxes because that's what Podstarz likes to deliver to the podcast community. Not just one person who has one thing to talk about. A man like this who has seemingly 707, so many that I couldn't possibly give him the intro that he possibly deserves. So what I will say is he is an influencer marketer, he is a live streamer, he is a podcaster, and he's a content creator with almost 10 million hits on his YouTube videos. My guest today is Sam Proof, and you can find him on the Podstarz website in our celebrity catalog. So welcome to the show, sir. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the Podstarz website. Thank you for signing up, and looking forward to having an amazing chat about zombies and a few other different things that I see are
For sure.
affiliated with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So let's just kick it off right off the bat.
Yeah.
From the little research that I saw, I see that 2006 was a big year for you, but I think you had some stuff prior to 2006 before you hit the YouTube stuff. So let's talk about
Yeah.
that. Like, how'd you get it? Because obviously what you do is not something that has a long history of being done. So back when you started doing it, you might have been like one of the OGs, one of the pioneers in this vein.
I've been doing internet contact since you had to plug your phone into like a suction cup device and it made all those crazy noises. And it was like, it wasn't an internet, it was like a series of forums, it was just like you dialing into another person's computer and being like, hi, what's going on? I hope this isn't a trap. But yeah, right around basically like the early 90s, 92 is when like I seriously like started to make my own websites, and Flash Macro Media came out, and that's when I made like the first vlogs that you could make, which weren't even video. They were like basically a slideshow of things, and you would put them into Flash Macro Media, which is like an animation tool, render it, host it on your own website, and figure out the like embed code by hand coding it. It was a real pain in the butt.
Yeah, it sounds like a process. You
It
really
was
have
a
to be
lot.
dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
it was fun. I mean, it was good times back then. And then, when YouTube came out, it was like, oh my God, it could have been this easy the whole time.
yeah, they really changed the game for pretty
Yeah.
much everything. They were the Kickstarter that really launched the word influencer, I think.
Yeah.
What's funny is back in the day, like you were talking about how hard it was. I just recently heard how Joe Rogan got his start,
Oh, yeah.
which was Tom Green. Same thing, had like a little underground podcast before it was called a podcast in his garage, and Joe Rogan was there, and Joe Rogan was like,
Nice.
"I love what you're doing, and I think I can do it, moving forward." And now look at him. I mean, now he's like a super billionaire, and I think he owns
Right.
Texas and all kinds of great stuff. But it's
Yeah.
just great.
Yeah.
It's great to show how like if the grind is very real, you just have to keep it up, I guess, and maybe get a little bit of luck.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the big lesson. The big takeaway from all of this is like, keep going. Cause there's so many people who like come out and like they'll put the grind on for like 3 months and they're like, well, I still only hit 200 people and that's it for me.
Yeah,
But
then that's exactly what the Podstar scenario was I was a struggling podcaster, and I felt myself wanting to throw the towel in
yeah,
because I couldn't get to the next download level. So I had companies coming to me saying, "We heard your content, we love what you do, but your downloads are unacceptable for us to invest in." Now it was up to me to try and build my podcast up to the next level. And then, to do that, you need a brand name, you need something creative, you need to be different then. So instead of doing the podcast route, I went this route instead. So yeah, you're right. Like, but I know a lot of podcasters who have come up to me since we've launched Podstars and said, like, I wish you guys were around 2 years ago because you could have
oh,
helped me
for
before
sure.
I quit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In my own sort of online career, I've had a bunch of different like ebbs and flows and major spikes of like, this is it, this is the moment. And the infrastructure wasn't around me. So like I lost a lot of momentum in like 2006, 2007, and then again around 2010. And now I'm rebuilding once again,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's like, if you don't have that foresight of like, what exactly am I going to do when I do go viral and something really hits? Like if you don't have that back catalog that you can point to and be like, look, I didn't just do this one funny thing. Here's a bunch of other things like that. Or, like, look, I didn't just make this one topical podcast. I have this service that helps other podcasters. So I think it is really important to like have that scope and have that vision of like what happens after the avalanche of people show up.
I mean, we're looking for that problem to happen.
Right. Yeah,
Not,
sure.
not not sure what door that's behind, so, but we're getting there. Hopefully, I mean
Yeah,
that's the way. I mean that's the dream for everybody, right? Like
for
every
sure.
content creator, every podcaster. So, yeah. Again, the grind is very real, and if it was easy, I guess everybody would be doing it, and
Right.
everybody would be Elon Musk with a boat that covers 1/3 of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, so you're a podcaster. I see so much stuff about comedy. So I guess you're very comedy centered and a lot of your stuff. You do a lot of sketch stuff. Was your podcast comedy based as well, or
When I first got started, I had like when I first got started in the 2006 YouTube era. Yeah, it was very, I'd been doing a lot of funny stuff, and I'd moved to Los Angeles in the early 2000s, and uh, came with the intent of being a writer. But I was like, well, while I'm here, I'm just going to get into the industry and try and produce my own stuff. And in order to do that, I had to be writer, I had to be director, I had to be actor, and all of those things. And the thing that I wanted to do most was like comedy stuff. So a lot of my early YouTube videos are really weird, wacky, like sketch comedy videos, or just vlogs with that sort of edge. And then I ended up going into Upright Citizens Brigade and taking a bunch of classes there, making a lot of friends in that industry. So yeah, it was a lot of comedy up front, and that's always kind of been part of what I do. These days, I'm a little more focused on creating content with a viewer in mind, whereas when I started out, it was like, what's funny for me? What do I want to do? And now it's much more like, I'm doing a podcast where I help other content creators and live streamers and teach them things. I'm still funny about it, but that's the goal. So it's not overwhelmingly a comedy podcast. I do, it's kind of on hiatus now, but I do a 24/7 live stream that is a cat cam. But within that, there's a lot of puns to be had.
gotcha. So your
Yeah.
your podcast is very much in tune with your influencer marketing business. So like people would, is it like a monthly subscription, like, or do you just do it for everybody, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
the podcast it starts as a live stream, and that goes out to, I have a co-host, John Lacey. It goes out to about 5 or 6 different platforms, both his and mine. So it's a little bit everyone's, because he has a really good following on LinkedIn. I have a great following over on YouTube and Twitch. So we're kind of just building this name up now, which is the video and live streaming show, and then it gets a little trim and goes on to Spotify as a podcast, and it's free for everyone. We're not doing any kind of like
No paywall.
workshops or no paywall. Yeah. Like
Gotcha.
right now it's just all about getting it out there and building that base.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm seeing a lot more of the podcast with the paywalls.
Yeah.
Not really sure how you can justify that, but with 800 million podcasts out there, why would I pay for something when I'm sure your content's great,
Right.
but I'm sure I could find something else just the same for almost free, maybe.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
You look around in that specific genre of like content creator gurus and workshops and all of that stuff. And yeah, you get a good mix of like the free and the workshops, and just the amount of knowledge that's out there for free. It's like I, I don't know why you would pay. Like, unless you specifically want like a one-on-one hands-on coach, it doesn't make sense to me to pay for like a workshop. But also I've been doing this for 20 years.
right. I don't know how familiar you are with wrestling, but we have about 30 wrestlers on the Podstarz site, so I'm very
Nice.
in tune with what's going on in that industry. And the Undertaker, I'm sure everyone knows the Undertaker, even if
Oh,
you're not a
I get
wrestling fan.
compared to him a lot.
So he just launched his own podcast about less than a
Nice.
year ago, but he put it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
I was under the impression like I wanted to listen to the Undertaker talk about some of his crazy stories, and by doing that, I would think that he would just be more open to everybody listening to it and get the ad reads and generate like that. But the
Yeah.
paywall scenario, he, for a multimillionaire, by the way,
Right.
I don't know why he picked the paywall. I'm still
I'm
trying to
sure
reconcile it.
somebody told him to put it behind a paywall. But I mean, again, you have someone like The Undertaker, he's, got the following already there. He's got that built-in following. Like, unless you're really at that top level, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's enough people that are willing to do it. But like, even on the comedy side of things, you have there are those paywall things like God, I'm dropping the name. I think it's Drop In TV actually, which is former College Humor people that went on to make their own, basically a platform that is all video and stuff like that, and they do pretty well. But that is something I've seen time and time again fail with like platforms like Super Deluxe or the Legendary Entertainment through Nerdist did Alpha, and those platforms failed badly. So it's there, it's a risk. It's, do you want fan funding or do you want sponsorship money? Like,
Right.
brands or fans.
Oh, that's a good term. I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense actually. Brands or fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So 2006, big YouTube for year for you. I guess that's when you start to really generate some buzz behind you.
Yeah, I mean that's when I started putting out videos. It was like 2007 when I really got like a big push. Back then there was no algorithms. It was all human editors. So like, and the pond was small. Like, there were not
Gotcha.
that many people making content on YouTube. And here comes my cat.
Nice walkthrough. Love it.
And yeah, so like the ability to get that spotlight was so much easier. And I ended up actually putting a video out that I almost never put out. Like, I done this video and I even got a friend to help collab on it, and I cut it and I had it all ready to go, and randomly saw another person on YouTube had posted a very similar video about the same. It was a tutorial about the same sort of thing. And I was like, oh, God damn it. And I almost didn't even, hit that upload button. But I did. And then within like 2 weeks, it was on the front page of YouTube. And that was, 500,000 views overnight.
Oh, that's the dream right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we put a post out on Instagram. We signed a Michelin 5-star Indian chef.
Nice.
Very lovely lady. But she's on the other side of the world in India. The
Mhm.
time zones are so different. So when we put our
Yeah.
post out, not being a social media guy, I didn't turn the notifications on. So at like
Right.
5 in the morning, my phone was going off, ding, 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 because I guess that's when the
Oh,
Indian
sure.
population woke up and saw her on social media talking about us. So I woke up and
Nice.
we had like 7,000 views on Instagram, which I was like, oh my God, I thought, just like you said, this is it. This is, we're going to take us to the next level. But
Yeah.
it wasn't. Spoiler alert. But we did have that one time when we thought, oh, this is it. We finally did it.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. Uh, it, it's preparing for the next time that it's the one time, right? Like,
Yeah.
you do it and you do it and you see the first spike and okay, what did I do wrong there? How did I not react to this, in the best way? How was I not able to like push it to whatever content I want them to see next and all of that kind of stuff? And that's what it is. It's just like, where did the ball get dropped? And how do I prevent that from happening again? Because you'll get that hit again.
That's yeah. I mean, we're trying, and
Yeah.
then we got our fingers crossed. What I can't figure about social media, being a 45-year-old guy who never really did social media before we launched this business, was
Yeah.
the differences between the five major platforms.
Sure.
LinkedIn is my favorite. I find that everybody there is just super positive, super helpful, super friendly. It's always good messages.
Yeah.
And then you go to Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And it is like, I
A
don't want to say night
mess.
and day. It is
Yeah.
just, there's nothing you can post on Twitter that's not going to bring negative reactions. I mean,
Yeah.
you could literally just say, like, I was just on a podcast and my cat walked by, and somebody will immediately comment, well, get the effing cat out of the way. Or like,
Right.
it's
Right.
just like, it's like it houses anger. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I've been on Twitter for a long time. Like, I was not the earliest of adopters, but I was pretty early in. And And it was such a cool community back then. And just to see it change, it's been like, it went from this thing that I was notoriously on. Like if I was on the computer, I was also on Twitter. And now I'm like, I go on, I check it. And if I start to feel that like, I'm done, I'm out. So like within 10 minutes, I'm gone and that's it for the day, you know? But yeah, it's a lot. Like there are so many platforms, and it's not just the big five. My co-host really likes LinkedIn as well. He does really good there, and he does a lot of like newsletters and posts along those lines for the podcast. Like not directly for the podcast, but like along the lines of whatever our coming topic is, and he's really great about that. Um, so he'll put out information that is, you know, like we're talking about OBS Studio, which is broadcast software, and he'll, you know, put out an article in the newsletter of like, here's like some really solid tips on this particular topic that we're talking about. So here's my 5 OBS Studio tips for the week. He talks about a bunch of other stuff, and then he, you know, points to the landing page for the live stream, and it does great. We've built like a really good sort of following of regulars that always show up and we can count on. And now we start to branch out to like pull in the friends of the friends and the people that randomly find us. So I love LinkedIn for that. I think it's great for exactly that sort of professional, like, you know, and feel good community.
Right.
Yeah, we basically don't use Twitter anymore. It's, you know, shouting into the void where we just post the link and we're like, that's it. I don't care. Nobody from here is going to show up.
That's pretty much exactly what we do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, the Instagram's not a big draw either, but for my cat stream, Instagram is a giant draw. Like I'll post things for that because, you know, it's a visual medium. So it really is a lot of what do I have? Who are the people I want? And where do those people hang out? You know, so it, you know, we've talked about this on our podcast a lot, which is like, don't spread yourself too thin. Don't worry about every single possible platform that's out there. You know, find the 2 or 3 that make the most sense and just focus on those, you know.
So where do you find, so when you put your content out, we'll say as a podcaster at this point, where do you find the most traction? Where do you get the most like love from?
Yeah, so a lot of the people that I specifically draw in, not so much my co-host because he's all LinkedIn. I actually go to Facebook groups that are for live streamers and content creators, and they'll ask questions in those groups, and I will just give them the answer. And if they reply to me once or twice, then maybe at some point I go, "Hey, I do a podcast on this every Friday," and
Gotcha.
like there you go. You know, um, it's always about presenting the value before I like try and, you know, tag them in.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, kind of like easing an old man to a warm bath sort of scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny. I jumped on a bunch of those Facebook groups when we launched this website. You know, and I thought they'd be very beneficial. The thing is, a
yeah.
lot of them don't want you to promote a business. So
Sure.
you're in there and, you know, people have questions like, oh, I'm not getting downloads. And I'll be like, oh, I have a website that you da da da. And then the next thing I'm kicked out. So
Yeah.
it's really hard to walk a fine line on Facebook, but I definitely, you know, that seems to be the place if you can navigate the waters properly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You definitely have to take the kid gloves approach of like, I don't need, you know, don't promote too hard. Like give them the breadcrumbs and let them find the trail there, you know, like,
Makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I just went too hard, too fast with just
sure. Yeah.
videos post, and then I say no, I'm out of the group, and I
Yeah.
start all over again. But social
Yeah.
media, like I said, it's a necessary evil for a business, but it's at 45, it's really hard to learn. It really is.
Yeah.
So
I
tell me more
mean,
about your fascination with zombies. I'm very curious to this. You hear a lot of people talk a lot about zombies, but you've taken it to another level.
yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, I previously hosted and produced a podcast called Pizza Games and Zombies, which really came out of you know, I'd had a good amount of success doing a lot of content stuff, and this was basically my first move to focus on something where I'd been doing the comedy, I'd been doing just what I wanted, and not that this wasn't, but like I sat down and I was like, what can I do that is fun for me, would attract brands, uh, and I could do it ad nauseum. I could do it forever, weekly, as long as I wanted. And I like literally sat down, made a list of things, and I was like, these are the things I really like. And I think there was a bunch of other things on this list, but it ended up being pizza, board games, and zombies. I think vampires and whiskey was on there, and coffee and as well. So wait for that podcast in the future. Um, but I was like, this would be great because I get a bunch of friends, we play a board game, we review a local pizza place, and we'll talk about zombies when whenever everything is like slow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've always been into zombies. I think zombie movies have always been great because of their sort of allegories and metaphors. And, it's, for the most part, deeper than just an action movie. But I've always been into like sci-fi and fantasy stuff. So that just fills that gap for me. And a lot of the games I like to play, especially board games, were also zombie themed. So I had games like Zombicide, which I ended up turning into its own sort of interactive board game live stream as well, so that I would be playing and the chat room would come in and they could either help me out by giving me extra rolls or actions, or they could play against me by dropping bigger and badder zombies on the board, which ultimately is how most of those shows ended up, where somebody would be like, and there's 200 zombies.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So since you brought up board games,
Yeah.
we seem to be somewhat similar in age. You're in your 40s?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually 50.
Oh, okay. So you look better than
Yeah.
me. Do you remember the game's Nightmare?
No,
Oh,
I don't think I
so
do.
back in the day, they were on VHS. And
Oh, yes.
you put them in, and it was a witch,
Yes.
mummy, and a vampire. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you're interested in paying a small fortune to watch those or trying to convert them into DVDs or whatever, but
Right.
I remember as a kid being terrified where it would
Oh my
talk to you
God.
and you felt like it was watching you while you're playing the game. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
very,
never
very.
played any of those, but I remember seeing some clips of those. Yeah.
I think they could totally bring it back. I think
Sure.
it'd be a fantastic idea. So,
Yeah.
zombie question. Obviously, you probably answered these 1,000 times on your own podcast, but do you prefer the what do you call it?
Slow.
The slow, stupid, or the fast, smart?
Yeah, I think it's always been about the slow ones for me. Like it's dealing with that overwhelming mass. Like once you bring in the speed element of it, it's something else. It's no longer a zombie in my eyes.
Well, especially with the Brad Pitt movie when they were like running like
Yeah.
cats on all fours and stuff like that. Like it seemed like
Yeah. And they're
these
like
guys are almost
climbing on each
unbeatable.
other to make like ant-like structures.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like bridges, like Lord of the Rings in the sort of
Right.
scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know my partner in Podstarz, his favorite zombie movie was the Dawn of the Dead, the remake that came out about what 15 years ago. Uh,
Yeah.
where does that rank in your top five,
That's
top 10?
actually, depending on the day, it's in the top three. It might be top one. I
Really?
do really like that movie for what it did and to revitalize the industry and anything. But like also Shaun of the Dead because of its,
The
ability to
comedy
twist
aspect,
everything. Oh
sure.
yeah, like that's
Yeah.
brilliant as well. So it's yeah, those two are always at the top.
And they're bringing out a new 28 Days Later. I forget the title, but I know it's in the works right now. I think it's
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to do with the previous two, but obviously it's in the what do you call it, like the trilogy or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but zombies seem to have taken kind of a back seat, I think, since The Walking Dead just
Yeah.
beat that to death because the last couple of seasons were just horrible, and now they've got like three other shows, which I'm not sure who's watching.
Yeah, I only just now found like this is how much I've been keeping up with it. Just found out that the Daryl has his own spinoff, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
what? But like, I think half the problem with all of that is it used to all just be Netflix, and now there's just every single production company or whatever, all of the major ones have their own pay for service, pay-per-view streaming service, whatever, and
right.
it's too much. I can't do more than two subscriptions. Like I'm not going to watch stuff, so like occasionally we'll rotate out where it's like, yeah, we'll put the Hulu on hold and we'll pay for whatever else.
Disney
um
Plus or whatever. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Makes
So
sense, because the next thing you know, you forget about them all, and you're
yeah,
assigned them to all 9 of them or whatever it is.
right. Yeah, like
Where's all my money going?
you can't watch all of that in 1 month. It's impossible.
So I see you do survival tips. So give me your top three. Like if you're the apocalypse hits, top three things that you must have, you must do.
This is kind of a question that we used to ask on the Pizza Games and Zombies show all the time. And one of my favorite answers to what would you do, like where would you go in a zombie apocalypse? Because so many people are like, I'm gonna go to Costco because they've got all this stuff or whatever. Uh, Jonathan, uh, Jonathan London from Geekscape, who by the way, his brother was in wrestling. I don't know who his brother was, and I think he himself wrote for wrestling a lot. His answer was that he would basically break a hole in one of the walls in his house and live inside the walls. So he would make the house look basically disheveled and like everything had been taken, and he would just live in the walls. And I was like, that actually sounds like a pretty decent scenario, if as long as your house is big enough and your walls are big enough.
So you're basically living inside a crevice that goes all the way around the house, I would imagine.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but you got to throw in different like what's the toilet situation? That's a big one.
Well, I assume he makes that break. You go, you got to get out of here.
Yeah,
I've held it in long enough.
and then come on, the boredom situation has to come into fact.
Well, I'm sure he's not in the walls the whole time. You gotta go out and face the world and forage and stuff because at some point you've run out of Fritos.
Well, I mean, I always thought the desert island. I mean, that used to be a big one because you're
Yeah.
surrounded by water and the zombies don't do the water so well. Until now, all of a sudden they've changed that and zombies can swim. So there,
Yeah.
so
I mean, I think, going somewhere cold because in theory they would succumb to that more so than someone who's producing their own heat. They gotta
it's true.
freeze up a little. Yeah.
Like an Iceland or
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere like that. Yeah, that makes sense. But so we've done that then. So how about if you were to you have to take somebody with you, right? So my wife has always said, because I am a bit of a scatterbrain, she doesn't want nothing to do with me if the apocalypse hits. She's going to find someone else. She's already made that perfectly clear.
Wow.
So yeah, apparently, even though I have the skills to like, I want to protect my family, she has no faith in me that I'm going to do things the proper way. So do you have a go-to person who you're like, hey, if this goes down, you and me are hand in hand, we're doing this together?
I mean, I have to say my wife and kids, but like if that's not part of the part of the equation, if things have gone horribly wrong, I'm yeah, I think I'm probably going to try and find Dwayne Johnson and see if
Oh, you're going celebrity. Oh, okay.
yeah,
I didn't know we were
just
playing that. You're gonna find The Rock.
I don't
All
know.
right.
I don't know that I have any friends close enough to me that I'm like, yeah, they could totally rough it out there. Honestly, my wife's done way more camping than I have, so,
Yeah,
so
same with
she
me.
might be the go-to.
Yeah. I'm putting up a tent for me is torture. So I let her do all the hard work. So
Yeah.
you're going with The Rock. I didn't know we were going celebrities, but that's a good choice. You know, as long as he's not singing the Moana song every 5 minutes while you're trekking through the train tracks or whatever. So an influence marketer, which is something that, I mean, I'd like you to describe basically, like you touched on a little bit that you give people a lot of tips and all that, but basically break it down for me. What exactly is it, and what services do you provide?
Sure. So I'm actually, an influencer marketer and a UGC content creator. So the big difference there is either way, you're a content creator, right? And you're basically a one-man band. You're the entirety of a production company, coming up with ideas and pitching things to different brands and making those videos, editing those videos, and shipping a final product. The big difference between influencer marketing and UGC is that on the influencer marketing side, you have the audience. So you're going to be posting this video on your YouTube, your Instagram, your Twitter, your TikTok, whatever it is. And they expect a certain amount of views to come out of that. On the UGC side, which is user generated content, they are using you just to produce the content. Sometimes you don't even have to make the edited video. You're just sending raw video and they'll edit it together and then they license it and use it to put on their social media sites instead. and I've done a little bit of both. I've also worked right now, I am actually on the flip side of it where I'm an influencer manager. So I'm the go-between for brands and other influencers. So I get to see behind the curtain and be like, so this is what it was like the whole time.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
any good any crazy experiences so far that you're like kind of blown away at? Like maybe it was
Um,
a number or
no, thankfully, I don't think there's been any crazy experiences yet. I've only been with this company for about a month and a half, 2 months almost. And we're just getting into the first campaign. We're just seeing like the final round of videos come in to launch. I don't know that I can talk too much about that element of it, but it'll
gotcha.
be interesting to see what happens when they finally do. I kind of did sort of a fair amount of this. I worked for a company called Mob Crush, which was a live streaming suite of tools. So you would use them to multicast or stream to other platforms. And I was creator success manager at that point. So I was like, more about onboarding creators in general, but I did work with some of the sales team to kind of put together campaigns and stuff. And we worked with a creator called Tana Mojo, who's very big on YouTube, and she did a live stream charity drive for us, and it hit like 74,000 concurrent viewers within like 3 hours and broke the servers. So
Wow.
nothing like that has happened yet.
Yeah, that's again, that's the dream, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the dream. So if you were to give somebody like, we'll say Podstars, for instance, if you were to give Podstars advice on social media, say like, so nowadays what I find is a lot of people are really trying to push the limits. It used to
yeah.
be about putting out good content, or putting out something that was different than. But like just this morning, I saw a woman who was in a grocery store and took off her underwear and put it in the food and then ran out the store because that was like trying to go viral. So
Yeah.
assuming Podstars doesn't want to do something like that because
Right.
nobody
Don't do
wants to
that.
see that.
No.
What advice do you give to people to try and hit social media? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, finding that thing that you are is the first and foremost of the game. So, at this point for you guys, it's still kind of exploring with the different formats, like do live streams, do podcasts, do video content, do short and vertical video content, do social media, and like do that for 3 months and see what's giving you any kind of following, any kind of traction. Get rid of like 5 of those things and double down on the rest of them,
Gotcha.
and like keep going. Like the interesting thing that we're seeing now with the whole sort of vertical video and shorts world is sort of this really hyper specific formatting where back in the YouTube days, it was like, I'm a sketch comedy channel, I'm a vlogger, I'm a lifestyler, and anything goes within that. I kind of have a format I'm doing, but now it's like, I'm the guy that rolls dice and makes a sandwich based on a chart. And there's 400 videos that do that. So if somebody sees one of those videos and they're like, that's interesting, they'll see 10 more of them. And then they'll be like, and now I'm done with seeing those videos. And maybe I'll come back in a month. Like I'm the girl that just dances. I'm the person that responds to all the trends and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of sort of micro formats happening. Um, and that might be something that works for a thing like Podstars. And it might not, I feel like in my gut, uh, trying to find sort of a micro format for a business model like that might not be the easiest thing. It might be something that happens by accident. So, I would use it. I would put things out on TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts, just because it's not that hard to clip down things like this interview or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think for you, it's going to be showing the value of the service and, the association of celebrities and all that kind of stuff. But it's always got to come down to what makes, the service stand out in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The crux of the business and what
Yeah.
the services provides. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Value first.
yeah, oh, wow. You would hope. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the name of the game, value for everything, right?
Yeah.
I find that and correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I'm not very good at this, but I do see a lot of, I don't want to say businesses, but a lot of so say Toronto right now, there's a big indoor carnival, outdoor carnival called the CNE, the exhibition. And every year they're known for these crazy foods, like a
Oh, cool.
burger with lobster on it, or
Yeah.
coffee with tequila in it, or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now they're getting so outlandish because they're gearing these products more towards the TikTokers and
Yes.
influencers who are have to buy the product for
Yeah.
25 bucks for a 7 foot taco.
Right.
So do you see a lot of this going that way where people
Oh,
are
yeah.
doing certain things just to gear towards the
Yeah.
influencers?
For sure. I like there's kind of two elements of this. So you see entire cooking channels where it's just like, how can I make the most crazy recipe out there where like they just do ridiculous things and you're like, but why? Why would you do this process? Why would you put these things in it? Like there's I don't want to name names. There's a lady out there who like the last video I saw, she has this giant glass and like layers all of these things into it from like 20 different bowls and then turns the whole thing over, dumps it into a casserole dish. And I'm like, why would anyone make this much work? Because you're gonna have to clean every single dish. Why wouldn't you just put it in that casserole dish from the cutting board? And
Yeah.
it's like it's just dumb. And like the ingredients were insane. But and then like the other side of it is you have companies, like legit companies, restaurants, services, whatever, that make food for the visual. Um, and they're getting really bad reviews because they don't taste good. Like,
Yeah, I
so
could
it's
say a
like,
thousand percent. Sure.
yeah, it's like the product has to be good. Like, it can't just look awesome. It's got to actually be good,
Right.
and there's a lot of like, channels pushing back on stuff like that. There was a major cookie brand that just has like a wave of bad press from influencers who have tried their very expensive cookies and are like, these are real bad.
Oh, so without naming names, I
Yeah.
think we might be talking about the exact same, or thinking about the exact same cookie place, because
Yeah.
just opened here in Toronto, and my
Oh,
oldest
really?
daughter drove for 30 minutes to get in line to get this box of insanely expensive cookies, brought them home, and literally it was the big taste test. And I would say 4 out of 5 people were like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like this does
Yeah.
not taste good.
It
And
sounds
by the way,
exactly like,
this one cookie cost me about $19. Like,
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I mean, maybe it's a business model they're looking for. I'm
I,
not sure.
I mean, unless the business model is get in and get out, like,
But I think you said it best when you just put, but why? There's so
right.
many things I see on social media, and I'm like, I get it, but why? I don't,
Yeah.
why? Ugh,
Yeah. There's a breaking point on everything. And like, it's either people reacting badly to it or you as a creator, like losing interest or burning out of doing that thing. Like, I could never be the guy that's doing all those prank videos. Like, I can't watch them and I have no interest in doing them. You know, like I don't want to do stuff like that in public. And it's
right,
like,
right.
you know,
And they're pushing the
I
boundaries. They're making
yeah.
bad decisions by pushing the
Oh,
boundaries.
and people are getting hurt and arrested. So it's like,
Well, that
pick
wasn't even
something
think about it.
safe.
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I watched one where a guy just last week was interviewing a former UFC fighter, so he could probably handle himself. He's
Oh
probably a
yeah.
pretty tough guy. And while he was interviewing him, you get 5 minutes to interview somebody, and he's mumbling on purpose, so you can't understand what he's saying, and the fighter's getting visibly upset, and
Right.
to the point where like you could see that something was about to pop off, and then the
Yeah.
guy's like, "Oh, this is just a TikTok prank," and the UFC fighter goes, "You know who I am, you know what I do, you know what I'm capable of, and you think it was a good idea to do something like this to me?" And I
Right.
was like, exactly the exact same thing I was
Right.
thinking what was going
Yeah.
on. So people are getting are getting privy to these
Yeah.
influencers. I don't even know what they're classified as, because I don't find the pranksters to be influencers. I find them to be
No.
a
Garbage.
way lower level. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
garbage. Perfect term,
Um,
garbage.
but yeah, and it's such a shame because in that scenario where you have this awesome interview set up, you could probably get several videos worth of clips out of it,
Yep.
as opposed to one potentially viral video that will be gone in 24 hours.
And people would be asking the same thing. You had that
Yeah.
opportunity, but why? Why would you screw it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's talk about your surviving trauma. I see on the website you put
Yeah.
on your bio on the Podstarz website that you've survived some trauma. So please be my guest. Explain this incident.
Yeah. Back this year, back in May, we had a house fire. I was the only human home. We were cat fosters, so our house had about 9 cats in it at the time. And I was working on a project with Daydream Studios, which was this cool interactive live stream, but I don't need to get into that. And my internet cut out, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" So I was in a detached garage. I walked out to go into the house, and I just saw that it was just smoke everywhere. And I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I was like, "Oh, there's cats! I got to go in there." And like, I didn't even give it a second thought because we had foster cats that were in like a really big crate. It was like a 4-tiered cat condo, and I was like, it's a lot of space, but that cat is in there and like will not be able to escape. So
Sure.
I just found my way through the darkness because it's just smoke. You can't see anything. Opened all of the doors to it. I could not find the kitten. And at that point, I just couldn't breathe anymore and I had to get back out. And within minutes, the firefighters had shown up. And thankfully, I'm not going to go long on this story, but all of the cats survived. Only one of them had any real lasting injuries, which was just some, patchy burns. So he's like 99.9% the same cat, just a little rough around the ears. But yeah, we lost a lot and we ended up moving into an apartment because it's going to take, a year or two to it was a house we were renting, so it's going to take them a year or two to get that fixed up and back on the market if we even get a chance to move back into it. Um, but yeah, I we had some therapists reach out to us and be like, "Do you want to talk about this trauma that happened?" And I've always been pretty open about new experiences and stuff like that. So I went into it and, they were like, uh, with a thing like this, it's always best to talk about it as much as possible so that it doesn't like consume you and you kind of take control of it. So it's something that I've put out there as a thing I'm willing to talk about. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it because that's not this format. That's not this podcast. But yeah, it goes a lot more emotional than the surface of this.
Sure. But hey,
Yeah.
99 point, you said everyone survived
Yeah.
99.9%. So, I mean, it has a happy ending. So that's good to
Yes.
know. And it's weird. You're actually the second person on the Podstar site who has done something
Really.
similar, running into a burning building.
Oh,
We have another guy named Nick Bostic. He was
yeah.
driving home, saw a house on fire, ran in, didn't know the people, just went right
Oh,
in through the
wow.
front door and did 3 trips to
Oh
get
my God.
three
Yeah.
different young ladies out of the house. So
Nice.
I give it to you guys. That's yeah, you would hope that everyone would react like you guys did.
Sure.
But let's
Yeah.
face it, not everyone's going to. So congratulations and good for you for
Thank you.
having the testicular fortitude to do something so brave.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's brave or stupid, but I did it. And maybe a little bit of both.
I'm siding with brave. I mean, if someone else wants to call it stupid, that's up to them. But I'm going on the
That's
brave
fine.
side. I
Yeah.
know I would love to do it. So I'll get
Nice.
you out of here on this one. You said you're a pizza guy. I've
Oh
never been
yeah.
a big pizza guy. I like it, but I wouldn't claim to be a pizza guy by any means. So two-part question, I guess. First of all, have you ever seen the guy from Barstool who goes around to the pizza places all over the world and he tries a piece of pizza from everywhere?
Okay.
Dave,
Maybe.
Dave Portnoy.
I don't know that I know the name specifically, but I feel like I've probably seen clips of that content somewhere.
Yeah, he's like he'll do it with like a Shaquille O'Neal in LA or
Oh,
someone else in
nice.
Florida, and but they'll go into like the places and he'll walk out
Oh,
with the box, try a slice, give you a breakdown. So just wonder if
yeah.
maybe that's something you would be interested in possibly
Uh,
doing
yeah,
as
that's
an
my dream job
influencer,
right
pizza
there. Yeah,
guy.
for sure. I would like one of my favorite shows is that Feed Phil show on Netflix. But if it was just Feed Sam and it was like Feed Sam Pizza, done. I would do that for the rest of my life.
Makes sense. Sounds like a lot of bread, a lot of sugar, a lot of carbs. So I'm kind of a bigger guy now, so I'm trying to cut down on that.
Yeah. I could probably eat pizza every day for at least 2 meals.
Oh wait, really? You love it that
Yeah.
much? Oh
Yeah,
my.
for sure.
All right,
I mean,
so
it's malleable. You can do so much with it.
and that was I was going to go with that. What is your opinion on the pineapple situation? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm straight in the middle. I am okay with it. My wife is a hard pass on it, and
Okay.
I think the biggest, like, it's not my go-to. I would never see a table full of different kinds of pizzas and there's a
Gravitate
Hawaiian and
towards
I would
Hawaiian.
grab that one. It would never be my first. Like maybe at some point I'd be like, well, I tried all the others. Let's see how this one is. Um, I think the biggest problem with it is really a problem of ratios where like in general, people are putting too much pineapple on it and it's just, it gets too hot compared to the rest of the toppings and it's too wet and juicy and like it's just not right. So I think if it was smaller pieces, maybe that would accommodate better. I don't hate it. My daughter really loves it now and I think she loves it just to annoy my wife so that she has her
There you
own,
go.
her own pizza that she can pretty much count that no one's going to take. But so I'll take a slice of hers whenever she gets it for sure.
All right. What about horrible things in my opinion, like anchovies or olives? Where are you on those?
I anchovies are just too strong a taste for me, right? Like they're too
Oh,
salty,
they're
they're too strong. I feel like I'm not against fish on pizza. I've made some smoked salmon pizza, some regular salmon pizza, where it's like salmon and lemon.
okay.
But it's usually like a white sauce, not a red sauce. Um, so I'm okay with the concept of fish, but once it gets to like that really salty anchovy thing, it's just not something I don't think I can eat anchovies in general. Like with a bagel and cream cheese, it's still hard for me. And then wait, what was the other thing you said?
Olives.
Oh, olives. I'm okay with most black olives and not so much with green olives.
Oh, okay. So it's a color thing. So you
There's a
okay.
distinct taste difference. Yeah, like
Really? Oh, I hate
yeah,
both. So
totally.
I'll take your word for it. We
So
we
I generally like vinegary things. But yeah, like when it comes to pizza, like I've never had one with green olives where I was like, oh yeah, this was the thing that made this good.
I think the reason one of the things I came to realize was I find pizza for me as a late night snack after a
Oh,
few
sure.
adult beverages where you
Okay.
got the munchies and you're like, let's order a pizza. What you got to figure out is, especially when you're doing it on a phone, when you're pressing the toppings button, you got to be very careful what you're pressing. Because
Oh,
if you
sure.
do press that anchovies button or that olive button, your pizza's a write off no matter how hungry you are. So I've done it where like I've opened the box, I'm like, let's do this. And I'm like, oh no. And
What has happened?
you can pick those things off. It does not matter. That pizza's
Yeah.
contaminated. It's a fish pizza now. So
Yeah,
that,
sure,
that
sure.
I've learned my lesson the hard way to really extend your screen and
Oh
be
yeah.
very careful how many buttons you're pressing
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
or
You
asking for
know,
help.
yeah, when my wife and I started dating before we got married, she was like very on the fence about pizza in general as well. And like she came from Michigan and I came from Philadelphia and I think she just had never really experienced like good pizza. It had always been like chain pizzas.
Right.
And so like, we started dating and I took her to a few really good pizza places, really like New York style pizza places. And I make pizza myself. And that really opened her eyes to like the difference between good pizza and average pizza. Now I'll
Sure.
still consume a ton of average pizza, but there is definitely, a an increased scale of like, deliciousness when you go to like a real pizza place.
Oh, sure. I mean, when I was in New York, I went to a couple of
Oh yeah.
in Brooklyn that were simply
Yes.
off the charts. And then
Yeah.
you have like Little Caesars, and
Yeah.
it's almost a different sport.
It's not the same thing. It's yeah. Yeah. It's its own world of like, yeah,
It's technically pizza,
it's got all
but
the ingredients, but is
exactly.
it? Yeah.
There's no love here. There's no love.
No. Yeah,
It's not made with
exactly.
any love or passion or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so man, it was great to have you on the show. It's great to have you on the Podstarz website. I like a guest like yourself being on the site because, as I said in your intro, we like to give the podcast community the biggest, basically the biggest window to interview guests who aren't
Yeah.
just one genre. And this
Yeah.
is part of the reason that I actually invented Podstarz was I find that a lot of podcasters kind of pigeonhole themselves and they'll be like a pizza podcast and they'll only talk about pizza for 600 episodes or whatever it is until they start to get burned out and then they want to
Right.
throw the
Right.
towel in sort of scenario, right? So what we suggest is someone like who does like a pizza podcast. Well, we have chefs on our site. So why not talk to a real chef and maybe really get in depth about pizza? So that, and I feel like you're the perfect guest for something like that, because you do the podcast thing, you do the influencer thing,
Yeah.
and you have so many other things you could talk to. So you would be such a fantastic guest for so many different podcasters. So I'm glad to have you on the site, and I can't wait for this to come out so that we both of us can publicize to our socials and say like we're on the same team now, and
Yeah,
we have the same goal in mind, which is to blow up. And
for sure.
hopefully you do it. And if I do it first, I'll take you with me, and vice versa. So
All about
let's
coattails.
that's
Yeah.
it, man. That's it. I have no shame on riding your coattails, my friend.
Nice.
So thank you very much. It's been a fantastic interview. If Tell people where they can find you, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you, any of that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me at samproof.tv. All of my socials are listed at the top left of that website. You can also hit me up on or at samproof@gmail.com.
And your YouTube that you have, are
I'm
all your
Samproof
original
everywhere.
are
Yeah.
all your original videos from even way back from '06 still on there?
Yes. Yeah, I almost never take anything down. I have like maybe 3 videos that I've ever privated because I was like, I think I've grown as a person.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But for the most part, I haven't grown that much.
Good to know. So if you're looking for something a little bit more lowbrow, maybe, I don't
Yeah,
know.
a little bit. There's a little bit of lowbrow back then.
Fantastic. We all
Yeah,
need that in our lives, though. We really do.
sure.
You just don't know you need
Yeah.
it until you see it, and then you're like, ah, I'm glad I watched this.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. Another interview with another talent from the Podstarz website. You can book him for your podcast at podstarz.net. He is in the celebrity catalog under the influencers category, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe
And
so, yeah.
again, sir, thank you very much for being here, and thanks for being a part of Podstarz. It's been a fantastic interview, and we will talk again shortly.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, sir. Bye for now.